the unseen force of the galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars, civilizations, and power struggles. For centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained peace among the stars, keeping the different factions in check. Yet, even the most powerful beings in the galaxy could not have predicted what was coming. They had no idea that a force was growing in the shadows, a force that would shake the very foundation of their power. It started as a whisper, a rumor that Earth, a small and seemingly insignificant planet in the corner of the galaxy, had developed something extraordinary. Some called it a myth, others laughed at the idea. How could a race that had barely begun to explore the stars have anything powerful enough to rival the advanced fleets of the Galactic Council? But the whispers continued. There were reports of strange energy readings coming from Earth's system, but nothing concrete. Still, no one took it seriously. How could they? Then, the first tremor was felt. It came as a faint signal, one that was barely noticeable at first. Scientists on the edge of the galaxy began to pick up irregularities in the fabric of space, a ripple in the fabric of the universe itself, something that should not have been possible. But when a few brave explorers ventured closer to Earth's star system to investigate, they vanished without a trace. Their ships, their signals, everything was gone. It was as if they had never existed. The Galactic Council immediately dismissed these disappearances as accidents, nothing more than the normal dangers of deep space. But deep inside, they knew something was off. Something was wrong. They ignored the warning signs, continuing their lives, their meetings, their power games, as if nothing had changed. But in the deepest parts of space, the darkness was growing. Back on Earth, the humans were not as naive as the rest of the galaxy believed. In secret, deep in their underground labs, they had unlocked a power that defied everything known to science. They had discovered dark matter, mysterious, invisible substance that existed beyond the reach of their understanding, and with it, they had begun to build the unimaginable. The first Dark Matter Warship was a secret, one that was only known to a few key leaders in the human government. Its design was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, sleek, powerful, and nearly invisible. It was a ship that could bend the very laws of physics, a ship that could travel faster than light and carry enough firepower to decimate entire fleets. Humanity had become something that the rest of the galaxy had never. Anticipated something that was about to change everything. But the Galactic Council still didn't believe it. They scoffed at the rumors. Earth has nothing to offer us. They're too primitive, they said. But the whispers grew louder, the signals stronger. It was undeniable now. Earth was hiding something, something far beyond their understanding. On one fateful day, the Galactic Council received an unexpected transmission. It wasn't from an enemy, nor from any known faction. It was from Earth. The transmission was a simple message, a warning that no one could ignore. Prepare yourselves. The Dark Matter Warships have arrived. The Council leaders sat in stunned silence. What was this? How could Earth, a planet they had long dismissed, have developed such technology? They scrambled for answers, calling emergency meetings, but it was too late. The warships, their design hidden from every prying eye, had already been activated. The transmission was clear. Earth had come into power, and it had come with a force that no one, not even the Council, could match. As the Galactic Council scrambled, each leader looked to the stars, trying to make sense of the message. What were Earth's true intentions? Were they here to conquer, to challenge their power? They didn't know, but they knew one thing for certain. This was no joke. The unseen force had revealed itself, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Across the galaxy, all eyes turned toward Earth. No one knew when the Dark Matter Warships would strike, but everyone feared they would come. The universe would never be the same again. The Council tried to call emergency meetings to address the growing fear, but nothing could quell the panic that spread like wildfire. Earth's warships were out there, somewhere in the deep, waiting. And in the silence that followed the transmission, one thing became clear to everyone. Humanity's power had awakened, and no one was ready for it. Even the greatest military minds of the galaxy could not fathom what had just happened. Their weapons, their fleets, their power, it all seemed so small now, like toys compared to what Earth had unleashed. The galaxy had always viewed Earth as weak, as a backwater world full of primitive species. But those days were over. Earth had entered the galaxy's stage, and they had entered with a force that could destroy everything the Council had built. The once dismissed humans now held the fate of the galaxy in their hands, and no one, not even the most powerful beings in the universe, could predict what would happen next. The transmission, the silence that followed. Earth's message hung heavily over the galaxy. For the Galactic Council, it was a moment of disbelief, the kind of moment that shook the very core of their existence. In their vast halls of power, the leaders who had once ruled the stars in unchallenged glory now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew. What is this madness? Grand Marshal Vayan, one of the most powerful figures in the galaxy, barked in disbelief as he paced back and forth in the council chamber. The transmission from Earth had not only threatened their dominance, but had come as a chilling warning. Simple message. Prepare yourselves. The Dark Matter Warships have arrived. At that moment, the full impact of the situation began to sink in. Humanity, an insignificant species to many, had somehow managed to create technology that defied every law of physics. Dark matter, once a mysterious, theoretical concept, was now in the hands of Earth's most brilliant minds. They had turned this unfathomable energy into the ultimate weapon. The transmission was encrypted, reported Council Analyst Zarav, a being who had spent countless years decrypting the galaxy's most complex codes. But it's unlike anything I've ever seen before. It was almost as if the message itself was alive, pulsating with energy. The room fell silent as the implications of those words hit home. The message wasn't just a warning, it was an invitation to witness the birth of a new era. An era where Earth, the planet they had all dismissed as primitive, now stood poised to challenge their authority. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was not idle. The Dark Matter Warships, the fruit of decades of secrecy and hard work, were ready. These ships, cloaked in mystery and capable of manipulating space-time itself, were unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. They could travel faster than light, making them nearly impossible to track, and their weapons harnessed the very fabric of the universe. These warships were humanity's response to the growing power of the Galactic Council, a symbol of their strength and defiance. And although the galaxy thought Earth was still nothing more than a distant, insignificant world, the humans had prepared for this moment. They had worked in the shadows, building a fleet that could rival anything the Council possessed. But now, it was no longer a secret. The message had been sent, and the warships had begun their silent march toward the heart of the galaxy. Back in the council chambers, panic was starting to bubble beneath the surface. A series of emergency meetings had been called, each one more chaotic than the last. Council leaders who had once held complete control were now scrambling for answers. How had Earth managed to develop such advanced technology? And more importantly, what did they want? Some factions in the Council believed that Earth's sudden rise in power was a bluff. They thought that humanity, in its desperate attempt to be taken seriously, had exaggerated its capabilities. But deep down, the Council members knew that this wasn't a bluff. Earth's message was too precise, too direct to be a mere show of force. The Dark Matter Warships were real, and they were coming. What if they attack? A worried voice from the back of the room interrupted the tense silence. What if they've come to destroy us? That question hung in the air like a thick fog. The Council had never considered the possibility that Earth might wage war. Humanity had always been seen as a young, unthreatening race, far beneath the grandeur of galactic politics. But now, Earth had shown that it possessed the power to change the galaxy forever. Another counselor, a seasoned war strategist named Kalor, stood up slowly, his mind clearly racing. We cannot wait for them to act. We must strike first. We must gather the fleets and prepare for battle. If Earth is truly as powerful as this transmission suggests, we cannot afford to underestimate them. His words echoed in the chamber. For the first time, the Council found itself in a position of weakness. How could they possibly face an unknown enemy who wielded such unimaginable power? And how could they respond to a threat that was still hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy, out of reach and yet so close? While the Council bickered and argued, humanity's ships moved in silence. There was no declaration of war, no grand speeches. The Dark Matter Warships simply appeared on the radar, moving through the galaxy at impossible speeds. No one saw them coming. Not even the most advanced sensor systems in the galaxy could detect them. The ships moved like shadows in the night, unnoticed and unstoppable. In the deepest parts of space, the humans had already made their first move. The Council, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, could only watch as their most advanced fleets sat idle, unsure of what to do next. Every minute that passed brought them closer to a confrontation they were not ready for. Back on Earth, the warships were preparing for their next phase. Each ship was a marvel of engineering, a testament to humanity's resilience and creativity. The humans knew they were stepping into dangerous territory, but they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. After all, they had nothing to lose. The galaxy had ignored them for far too long that as the first fleet of warships entered the Council's space, the transmission had already done its job. The galaxy was on edge, and the Council was no longer the unquestioned authority. The humans had made their presence known, and they would not go quietly back into the shadows. The message was simple, yet profound. Prepare yourselves. And now, the time for preparation had passed. The Dark Matter Warships were here, and the Council could only stay silent in the face of the unknown. Would they survive the coming storm? Or would Earth's dark power be too much for them to handle? Only time would tell, but the galaxy's future would never be the same again. Asterisk, the silent. Arrival the galaxy waited in silence. The calm before the storm. The Galactic Council's leaders had spent hours, days, even weeks, scrambling to understand the impossible message from Earth. The Dark Matter Warships were unquestionably reland. No one, not even the most powerful factions in the galaxy, could fully comprehend the implications. On Earth, the mood was different. Humanity, though small and once overlooked, now stood on the brink of something monumental. They had built something that could change everything, and their fleet was ready. The Dark Matter Warships had left Earth's atmosphere, traveling at speeds no one had ever thought possible. They were cloaked in darkness, moving through space like shadows, and no one, not even the most advanced sensor networks in the galaxy, could detect them. The warships were as silent as death itself. The leaders of the Galactic Council watched in horror as their systems began to report strange disturbances in the fabric of space. At first, it was just a glitch, a weird anomaly in their sensors. Then it happened again and again. The readings were unmistakable. Something was out there, moving in their territory, something powerful and fast. "We've got to act now," shouted General Torque, one of the Council's most respected military leaders. "Our fleets are too far out. We won't be able to catch them. If we don't move quickly, we might lose everything." The panic was palpable. The Council had spent centuries building alliances, establishing peace, and asserting their dominance across the galaxy. They thought they were untouchable. But now, Earth, the small and seemingly insignificant planet, had brought a force so powerful, so unexpected, that it made everything they had fought for seem like child's play. "We need a plan," said High Commander Neres, a cool-headed strategist who had seen her fair share of galactic conflicts. "But how do we stop what we cannot even see? We don't know how many ships they have, how powerful they are, or even where they are right now." The council chambers buzzed with frantic discussions, but no one had any answers. Every move they tried to make felt like a step into the unknown, and they realized too late that they were no longer in control. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were facing the consequences. Meanwhile, far away, in the cold vacuum of space, the Dark Matter Warships moved with terrifying precision. Their sleek, almost invisible shapes passed through the galaxy like ghosts, their paths unpredictable. Humanity's fleet was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. These ships didn't need traditional weapons. They didn't need to fire laser beams or missiles. They were weapons in themselves, capable of bending space, distorting light, and using dark matter as their fuel. They could move faster than any sensor could track, and they could strike before anyone even realized. They were there. The first warship reached the edge of Council space, and it didn't slow down. It passed through a heavily patrolled sector, undetected by the Council's finest fleets. The warship's presence was felt only after it had already crossed into deeper territory. The Council's alarms began blaring, but it was already too late. Humanity's dark fleet had arrived. Back at the Council, the emergency alert systems were blaring in a frenzy. "We've detected an unknown ship," came the voice of the lead analyst, trembling. It's here. They're here." The Council's immediate response was to launch their best ships, hoping to intercept the invaders before they could do any damage. But the Dark Matter Warships were far beyond what the Council could handle. The ships, with their dark, shimmering forms, seemed to blink in and out of existence, moving between points in space with ease. The fleets that had been deployed to stop them were no match for the speed or power of the warships. Each attempt to engage was met with failure. The first contact came when the Dark Matter Warship entered a major trade route, one that had been a lifeline for many of the Council's allied systems. The human warship hovered silently, its presence barely noticed until it was too late. The trading ships that passed through were disrupted by a powerful pulse of dark energy, forcing them to a standstill. The once thriving route became a blockade. In seconds, and the warship didn't even need to fire a shot. The Council's fleets were now in disarray. They had prepared for any number of threats over the centuries: pirate attacks, internal uprisings, and even galactic invasions. But nothing had prepared them for this, a threat they couldn't see, a force they couldn't stop. The Dark Matter Warships didn't need to announce their arrival. They simply appeared, silent and deadly, leaving chaos in their wake. Within hours the news spread across the galaxy. The mighty fleets of the Galactic Council were no match for humanity's unexpected weapon. The Council's territory, which once spanned across multiple star systems, was now on the brink of collapse. Back on Earth, the human commanders watched as their ships made their move. They didn't speak of war or conquest. They spoke of peace, but peace on their own terms. They weren't here to destroy the galaxy. They were here to show it that Earth would no longer be ignored. Humanity had something that no one else had, the power to change the very fabric of reality itself. The warships moved silently, cutting through space like shadows passing over the stars. They did not rush. They knew they were in control now. Humanity's once humble fleet was now a symbol of the galaxy's new order, one where Earth was not just a forgotten corner of the galaxy, but a force to be reckoned with. For the Galactic Council, the silence of the Dark Matter Warships was deafening. There was no warning, no time to prepare, no way to stop it. Earth had come into power, and now it was here to stay. The question was not whether the Council could defeat humanity's fleet. It was whether the galaxy was ready to face what Earth had become. The silence of the Council of the Galaxy had always been a place of order. Every star, every system, was carefully watched over by the Galactic Council. Power was something that had been firmly held by a few, and the rest of the galaxy had no choice but to obey. The Council's word was law, their fleets invincible. That was, until humanity's Dark Matter Warships arrived. Now, as the warships silently moved through the galaxy, the once dominant Council was on the edge of collapse. Their invincible fleets, their countless alliances, their years of power, everything was crumbling in front of their eyes. The Galactic Council had never been truly prepared for an enemy like this, one that didn't need to fire a single shot to shatter their control. The first time the Council leaders truly understood the scale of the threat came when the reports flooded in. The most advanced fleets of the galaxy, those once thought invincible, were being dismantled piece by piece. No explosions, no space battles, just a presence so powerful it left entire fleets helpless. The Dark Matter Warships simply appeared, infiltrated and crippled the defenses, and disappeared as swiftly as they arrived. Council Commander Lyra stood at the heart of the command center, her gaze fixed on the now empty space where once there had been hundreds of Council ships. The silence in the room was deafening. For the first time in her career, she felt a deep sense of dread. "How did this happen?" she whispered. "How are we being outmatched by a force that shouldn't exist?" Her voice was barely audible, swallowed by the vastness of the space around her. It was a feeling that every leader in the Council was beginning to experience, an overwhelming fear of the unknown. Despite their finest efforts, the Council could do nothing but watch. They had sent their best warships to confront the Dark Matter fleet, but none had returned. What had started as a whisper of humanity's power was now a resounding truth. Earth's forces were unstoppable. In the private chambers of the Council's supreme leaders, the once boisterous discussions had been replaced by an unsettling silence. For the first time in centuries, the leaders who had once shaped the galaxy's destiny were not speaking with confidence, but with fear. The situation was worse than anyone had imagined. Even their spies, who had once been able to infiltrate and gather information from the most secretive of civilizations, had no answers about the Dark Matter Warships. No one knew how many there were. No one knew where they were coming from. They were simply everywhere, and the galaxy had no way of countering them. What's our next move? High Chancellor Zoroth asked, his voice hollow and weak. His usual commanding presence was gone, replaced by the hollow tone of someone who knew their time had come. His hands shook as he gripped the edge of his desk, staring into the void of space through his chamber's window. "We have nothing left, Grand," Admiral Pharos replied, his voice thick with resignation. "Our fleets are scattered. We've lost entire sectors in the blink of an eye. And Earth... They've barely fired a shot." It was true. Humanity had never shown aggression in the way the galaxy's other factions had. There were no war cries, no bold speeches, just the silent, unstoppable march of their warships. They had made their point without lifting a finger, and now the Council's once invincible power was slipping through their fingers. Outside the Council's chambers, across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's silent warships were being felt. Major trade routes had been completely severed, and the once bustling star systems that had been the backbone of the galaxy's economy now sat in silence. The few fleets that were still intact were now simply reacting to the situation, not acting on their own. The galaxy's many races, once proud and mighty, now looked to Earth with fear in their eyes. They knew that the Dark Matter Warships had the power to reshape everything. Despite the chaos, Earth had not yet issued a single ultimatum or demand. They had not attacked with the brutality the Council expected. They had simply arrived. They were there, and no one could stop them. For the first time, the Galactic Council had to face the reality that they had been surpassed. A civilization they had once deemed insignificant had managed to create a weapon far beyond their own, a weapon that could bend the fabric of space and time. The Council's once confident leaders were now questioning everything. Had they been blind? Had they been so focused on their own power that they failed to see the potential that Earth harbored? "What happens now?" asked Commander Lyra. Her voice was soft, almost defeated. The question hung in the air like a lead weight. How could the Council possibly recover from this? High Chancellor Zorath exhaled deeply, his face pale and weary. "We negotiate. We try to find some way to communicate with them. We can't afford to go to war with a force we don't understand." "Negotiate?" Admiral Pharos scoffed. "How do we negotiate with shadows? With a force that doesn't even need to speak? How do we bargain with a civilization that already holds the galaxy in its grip?" The tension in the room was palpable, and everyone could feel the weight of the decision that lay ahead. They were no longer in control. Earth had not only caught up with them, it had surpassed them, and now the fate of the galaxy was in humanity's hands. Meanwhile, in the dark reaches of space, Earth's warships continued their silent march. The galaxy was slowly coming to. The realization that Earth was not just a small, insignificant planet, it was a force of nature. It had entered the galaxy's stage, and it would no longer be ignored. Humanity had not come to conquer, to destroy, or to demand. They had come to make a statement, one that the galaxy would never forget. They were no longer the outcast world, the forgotten planet. They were the future, and the Council's silence in the face of humanity's power spoke louder than anything. They could say, the galaxy was changing, the Council's reign was over, and Earth, with its dark matter warships, had come to stay.